My name is Madam Jennifer from Educare TZ. Welcome, my lovely Form 4 students in a biology session. And in our today's session, we are going to solve the biology paper 1 for the Necta year 2014. Welcome. Our today's question is question number 10 for the year 2014. And it is stated that the question number 10, Roman A, differentiate the following. 1. Breathing and respiration. Second, inhalation and exhalation. And Roman B, for the question number 10, briefly describe the following phenomena. Briefly describe the following phenomena. First one, a person breathes fastly more when running fastly. A person breathes more when running fastly. The second one, the rib move outwardly and upwardly while the diaphragm flattened when the air enters the lung. My lovely Form 4 students, this question is question for the Form 2 topic, in that topic of the gaseous exchange and respiration. In order to answer this question, you are needed to have a deep understanding in this topic of the gaseous exchange and respiration. And for those who have not ready yet learned this particular topic, we have teach it here at Educare Media. Please search on the topic of the gaseous exchange and respiration, and it is Form 2 topic where you are going to learn a lot of the knowledge and finding pertaining this particular topic, which has been designed for you to learn during your study at the Form 2 level. So, before we answer this question, we are needed to see the instruction. That's this question number 1 just require you to differentiate between the breathing and respiration. Differentiate between breathing and respiration. And the second one, inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. The second one, just explain in briefly. Don't give a paragraph, a one-page explanation for this answer, because just you have been asked to explain in brief. Just make sure that to become accurate, short and accurate. This is science, it does not need a more of the blah blah. Just go directly to the point. Stick to the point so that you can get the marks that has been attributed to this particular question. Also, for the Roman B, also needs you to describe what happened on when the rib move outwardly and upward, where the diaphragm flattened when the air entered the lungs. So this question, example for this question number 10, Roman B, it has been derived from that concept of the gaseous exchange during the mechanism of the inhalation, of the breathing, inhalation and exhalation. So it will ask you, kwa nini mtu anapokuwa anafanya mazoezi, kwa nini mtu anapokuwa anakimbia anakuwa anapumua haraka haraka? Hata wewe mwenyewe fanya mazoezi, hata kimbia hapo baadaye usimame, pumzike, unajikuta unakuwa unavuta hewa kwa haraka sana. Why? This is the understanding question. Another one is this one. Kwa nini wakati wa kupumua? This is a mechanism of inhalation. Kwa kama you are familiar with what happens during the breathing in or taking air into the body, or is usually oxygen, you will answer this question. So the rib tend to move outwardly and upwardly while the diaphragm tend to flatten when the air enters. This answer is being derived from that concept of the inhalation, or the mechanism of breathing in. So these are the events which are taking place during the breathing in. Now let us answer the question by starting with question 10, Roman A, which needs you to give a differentiation between the breathing and respiration. The breathing, this is a process of taking air into the respiratory organ and release of air from the lung. In other terms, breathing is the same as the gaseous exchange. The process of the movement or taking of the air into the respiratory organ, usually the lung for mammals, for human beings, and usually take in the oxygen, and the removal of the carbon dioxide via the respiratory surface, or via the respiratory organ. This is known as breathing. Or another term, the breathing is a process of inhalation and exhalation. Process of taking in air and removing of the air via the respiratory surface. That is all about the breathing. So for any person who has been answered this question like this, anakuwa amepata all the marks na amekuwa amejibu very correctly. You are needed to differentiate between this breathing and respiration. While the respiration, this is the process of breaking down complex food substance into smallest particles so as to release energy in form of ATP, which can be used for other metabolic activity and maintenance of the body, like growth and development and the production of the heat, is especially when the organism is at the low temperature, inasaidia katika warming of the body. So the respiration is a set of metabolic reaction or activity in which complex food substance are broken step by step to release energy within the cell. So this is a set of the metabolic reaction or activity in which complex food substance are broken down step by step so as to release energy, which can be used for different bodily activity like growth, development, and heat, which are important in maintenance of the internal body temperature, especially for these homothems when the surrounding temperature is low. The second one, you are needed to differentiate between the inhalation and exhalation. When talk on the inhalation, this is the process of taking the air into the lungs or into the respiratory organ, or this is the process of taking in oxygen into the respiratory organ or into the lung. While the exhalation, this is the process of taking air or moving out air from the respiratory organ, usually the carbon dioxide. Now, the question number 10 Roman B needs you to explain or describe briefly why during the exercise people tend to breathe more, or the breathing rate tend to increase. Why during the exercise the breathing rate tend to increase? So, when you exercise, the muscles work harder and the body uses more oxygen and produce the carbon dioxide. So the person who are exercising tend to breathe more because during the exercise, meaning that the use of this oxygen, the oxygen tend to be using more rapid than the release of this carbon dioxide. So, and during the exercise, you know that there is the movement running. These are one of the functions, or muscular movement or muscular contraction. So the muscles, within the muscle is there where there is this muscular movement. So during the movement, there is a large use of the oxygen and the release of the carbon dioxide. So in order to ensure that there is an increased supply of the oxygen to the body, there is a need of the increase of the breathing rate or inhalation to ensure that more oxygen will be taken into the body, to ensure that the other metabolic activity of the body are maintained at the constant level and the oxygen and carbon dioxide are removed. Because we know that during the transport of the oxygen, there is an hemoglobin, and the hemoglobin tends to bind with the oxygen from the lung within the lungs and become unloaded once it has transported, or this blood become transmitted to this muscular or to the muscles where there is a low amount of the oxygen. So the amount of the oxygen needed to be supplied more into these skeletal muscles, which are responsible for exercise and running, to ensure that the muscle does not get this oxygen debt. Because once the oxygen become low in these muscles is where there is the production of the lactic acid, which this lactic acid result to the muscle cramp, and this result as a result of the anaerobic respiration. Kwa pale ambapo in case kama oxygen ikiwa kidogo katika muscles inapelekea the production of the lactic acid. Ndio maana watu wale ambao unakuta wanafanya mazoezi sana, wanakimbia sana, unakuta mtu anakuwa miguu yake inakuwa kama inakufa ganzi, anapata ile muscle cramp. This is due to, inapotokea pale oxygen inapokuwa na be supplied kwa kutosha, inapelekea production of the lactic acid kwa ajili ambayo inapelekea the muscle cramp as a result of the anaerobic respiration. So the muscles work harder, the body uses more oxygen and produce the carbon dioxide. To cope with the extra demand, the breathing rate increase from about 15 times a minute when resting up to 40 to 60 times a minute when running. Because the breathing rate inakuwa inaongezeka for the uptake of the oxygen, so to ensure the constant supply of this oxygen to these muscles. ili kuweza kuprevent that muscle cramp which result as anaerobic respiration which produce the lactic acid which might result to the muscle cramp. Also, another you are needed to describe why during the breathing or inhalation there is the diaphragm on this intercostal the diaphragm, they tend to move upward and outward during the inhalation or during the breathing. So when you breathe or inhale, the diaphragm contract and move downward. Once you inhale or you breathe or you take in air into the body, oxygen, the diaphragm tend to contract and move downward or tend to move upward and downward, and this increases the space in the chest cavity and the lung expand into it. After there, the muscle between the ribs also help to enlarge the chest cavity. They contract to pull the rib cage both upward and outward during the inhalation. So this is the reason. This is because because of the inhalation. In this way kwanza yetu tulivyoulizwa kwamba the rib move outward and upward while the diaphragm flattened when the air enter into the lungs. So this is the reason kwa nini this event inakuwa inatake place. So another question is question number 12 for the year 2014, which states that describe how malaria parasites are transmitted, the sign developed to the host, and give ways which can help in combating the malaria in the country. My lovely Form 4 students, this question has been derived from the topic of the Form 1, from that topic of the health, immunity and diseases. We have discussed a lot of the communicable diseases and infections in that particular topic, like tuberculosis, Ebola, there are these meningitis, there's diabetes, and right of the disease we have learned, and we have teach you on this particular session on the health, immunity and the diseases. So for those who have not already read this particular topic, you are welcome to follow here at Educare Media so that you can familiarize yourself with the variety of the diseases, their mode of transmission, sign, effect, and the prevention, so that you can become a great ambassador and a teacher and helper to your community, to your surrounding community. So our question now needs you to, it comes from this particular session and in one of the example of the communicable disease, which is the endemic communicable disease, which is malaria. So you are needed to state on this how malaria are transmitted, the sign it developed, and the way of combating or preventing the malaria. So by starting, the malaria, this is endemic disease. And the endemic disease, this is disease that tend to become widespread in a particular area and tend to occur constantly in a particular geographical area. So this is one of the continuous disease, meaning that once you treat it for this particular time, inakuwa tena in an outbreak. So it tends to occur constantly in a certain geographical area. So the malaria is one of the diseases that is transmitted by the Plasmodium species. Plasmodium species, this is one of the organisms which is found within the kingdom Protoctista in that phylum Amphicomplexa, is where this Plasmodium organism causing malaria tend to found. And the carrier of this Plasmodium species, female Anopheles mosquito, which act as the vectors of the Plasmodium species causing the malaria disease to human organism. How this disease are transmitted? This malaria disease is transmitted by the female Anopheles mosquito, who act as a vector or a carrier of the Plasmodium species. Once especially kuna Plasmodium malariae. Once this Plasmodium, this female Anopheles take a blood bite from a blood meal from the person, it tend to inject this Plasmodium vivax falciparum or malariae, who tend to cause the malaria to the bitten area. So after there, we say this Plasmodium are parasites. They tend to they are endoparasites. They tend to live inside the body of the blood, and they are blood suckers. So once they injected by this female Anopheles, they tend to inhabit in variety of the head and to the body of the host cell, especially human being, into the lung, into the liver, also into the red blood cell. Once they invade this red blood cell, they might cause to the bleeding, excessive bleeding, which result into the anemia, which can relate to the even to the death of a person. So they tend to cause the infection depending on where they are hosted or where they invade. So this is how the malaria transmitted. So they tend to be transmitted by female Anopheles mosquito who act as a vector, and it is the endemic diseases caused by the protozoa called Plasmodium species, especially Plasmodium malariae. So the risky factor which might result to this person, a human being, to be affected by this Plasmodium species causing the malaria disease is housing near the breeding site, near where this Plasmodium tended to breed or to reproduce. Also, poor housing structure, example, poor housing hygiene, housing near where there is this housing area, au kuwepo na kuishi katika majumba ambayo kuna kuwepo hakuna vyoo. Poor sanitation inaweza kapelekea as one of the facilitator of the breeding rate for this Anopheles, female Anopheles mosquitoes. Vile poor environmental hygiene and sanitation. Kwa mfano, living in area where there is long grasses, vile area where there is poor drainage, which tend to provide a good conducive breeding site for this mosquito, might result to a person to be in a great danger of being infected by this Plasmodium species causing the malaria. So the question is you to state the signs or symptoms of the malaria. First of all, the first symptom of the malaria is chills. The person suffering from malaria tend to suffer from the chills au mafua. Also, fever and headache. A person suffering from malaria tend to have the fever, also tend to experience the pain in the joint of the head. Mtu anakuwa anaumwa kichwa, anakuwa na homa. Vile sweating, mtu anaanza kutoka jasho because the body temperature tends to rise above the normal. So inapelekea sweating as one of the mechanism of cooling the body. Also, the nausea and vomiting. Nausea itaanza kupata kichefuchefu na vile hata kuweza kutapika. Another symptoms is pain in joint and abdominal pain. Vile mtu anaanza kupata maumivu katika hadi kwenye mifupa, kwenye hizi joint. Hizi hapa ni moja dalili za malaria. Now, how the malaria can be prevented? Our question is you to say how malaria transmitted, the signs and the preventive measures. You can't state the way of preventing malaria if you does not know the risky factor. That's why I have told you the risky factor or the causes of or the factor which might result to a person to be in higher danger of being infected by the malaria parasite. So, the first preventive measures is sleeping under treated mosquito nets. A person who is suffering from malaria or people who are living in area where there is this incidence of the malaria disease advised to sleep under treated mosquito nets so as to prevent that direct contact between the mosquito and the mosquito which are the carrier or vector of this Plasmodium species causing the malaria. So once a person needs sleep under this treated mosquito net, tend to prevent that direct contact with this mosquito, especially female Anopheles mosquito. Once they bite a person, to take a blood meal is where they tend to inject this Plasmodium species tend to cause the disease, particularly the malaria. Also, draining stagnant water. Stagnant water, one of the good breeding sites for the organisms which are belonging to the kingdom Protoctista. They tend to inhabit wet area where they tend to reproduce asexually in large number for a short period of time. So the stagnant water, one of the good breeding sites. So on how, in order to prevent the reoccurring of this particular disease, this stagnant water need to be dead so as to ensure that the breeding site of this particular mosquito or vectors are destroyed so as to inhibit or to reduce the population of these vectors which tend to cause and to carry this Plasmodium species causing the disease. Another preventive measure is cutting long grasses in residential area. There's a need of maintenance of the environmental hygiene. As we see that poor environmental hygiene and sanitation are one of the good facilitators by providing the good breeding site for these mosquitoes causing the malaria. So there is a need, in case if people are residing in area where there's these long grasses, they have to make sure that they maintain the environmental safe, clean. They tend to abide to environmental hygiene by cutting the long grasses, also having the proper sanitation to ensure that the breeding site of this mosquito are destroyed. Another preventive measure is using mosquito repellent. There are variety of the mosquito repellents. For example, there is rungumax, there is this udi, kuna vidonge ambavyo sana sana majumbani unakuta wameweka udi, wanachoma kwa ajili ya kuweza kuua malaria. Kuna rungu, kuna vidonge ambavyo vyote ni moja ya tactics au ni one of the preventive measures which are being taken as an way of eradicating this particular disease. So in case kama unaishi katika maeneo ambayo kuna mosquitoes, make sure kwamba unatumia hivi hapa mosquito repellent kwa ajili ya kuweza kureduce, kuweza kukill this population of the mosquito ambao ni carrier of the Plasmodium species causing the malaria disease. Another preventive measures, and the last one is seek immediate medical treatment. In case kama umemwona mgonjwa anakuwa na hizi signs au wewe mwenyewe umeweza kuanza experience one of the symptoms of the malaria, make sure that you visit a certified clinical office or center where you are going to, ili kuweza kupima damu yako kwa ajili ya kuweza kuangalia unakuwa na suffer from which particular disease. Kama ni malaria, baada ya kupata medication, make sure kwamba unakuwa unatumia drug as prescribed by the medical doctor. Make sure kwamba unatumia dawa unamaliza dozi kuweza kuavoid ile drugging abuse, kwa sababu unapokuwa unatumia dozi, umepewa dozi lakini ukaitumia nusu, inapelekea ile resistance. Kwa hiyo in case kama ukija tena ukagua malaria in the future, inakuwa ni dangerous kwako. So my lovely Form 4 students, let's mark the end of our today's session. I hope that you have enjoyed, also you have learned the concept pertaining the session we have discussed on this question, which has been constructed from our Necta question for biology paper 1 for the year 2014. My lovely Form 4 students, that mark the end of our today's session. Please keep on following.